What's up, guys? Welcome back to these Skullgirls story mode playthroughs. Today, we're taking a look at the two final stories for the, the vanilla Skullgirls game. The rest of them after this will be DLC. So Valentine was locked originally until you beat the story with all the vanilla characters aside from Double. Double, of course, would unlock after you beat Valentine's. So, expect some major revelations and stuff. And it starts off pretty fierce with the Kingdom of Keyblades looking sort of thing. No, actually this is interesting. Those things weren't recolored. They were originally red. So for those of you who don't know, so you see the pink cross there on, I think that's Christmas's head. Then they're all named after the Patties there. I don't remember all the names, but they're all named after holidays. Valentine, of course, is named after Valentine's Day. But if you see the pink crosses on them, originally, and in the original Skullgirls game, they're all red. And if you go back and look at old videos and stuff, you'll see they all had the red cross on them, which, when this game was getting published again, they realized that's a big no-no. We can get sued for that really badly, because the red cross is a copyrighted international symbol. So they had to change it on everywhere in the game, including in some cases the character Parasol. She had a red cross on, just like, because she wears a cross necklace, right? In one of the colors, the one that makes her look like Mitsuru from Persona, it was red, and they actually had to change it, despite it being a reference to something else, in fear of being copyright struck. So Valentine is, she's sort of a beginner-friendly character. She has a lot of multi-hit moves. She's very fast. You know, she hits multiple times. A lot of people really like her. I like her a bit. I don't love her. She's very long-reaching ones, too, because a lot of them extend out further from stuff. But originally, one of her major mechanics wasn't even in the game with her. So as you can see here, you go quarter circle back, and she prepares a vial, and if you do it multiple times, it actually powers up each time. So I'm actually going to try and get the final one. So when you get it then, it replaces your projectile with a vial, which does one of three things. That's poison. The other one you can do is, I want to see if I can get it. Oh no, that's poison. Or that's poison. One of them's poison. I forget. And then, there's poison, there's input lag, and then there's slowdown. So, like, you can actually make it so that their moves, like, when you're fighting a real opponent, it makes it seem like they have lag on their end. That is one of her things. But originally, that wasn't even in the game. It actually took until slightly different edition, I'm pretty sure, to actually put that gimmick in. And they're saying, like, yeah, it's weird that it took so long to put it in. Otherwise, if you do it otherwise, she just has these dead cross projectiles. And actually, when she keeps them hidden in her bosom. But if you see, she has to hold her breasts up when doing it because they're so huge. She doesn't want that. She needs the support. It's so funny that's a minor thing. No, but otherwise she has a JoJo move too. She goes full Dio. In fact, that move is straight from Dio with the multiple knives and the time stop and stuff. It's good, you know. She actually has a good number of just references to ninjas in video games and stuff. Also, she has a cadaver, which she uses. Stone cold and red hot. But yeah, no, I think a lot of people said the same thing when they saw her win pose, which was wow. You know, with the pulling the thermometer from the bosom and popping it, which is probably terrible for you because of the mercury in it. Would be terrible to get on your skin. And let me tell you, there's a lot of skin there. I think also they had her more covered up in the chest area for this, but then they pulled it down because they realized, no, we can get away with it being that low for the ESRB. But no, Ninja Nurse, which is surely a very not used often combination for stuff. I like it. I think she's definitely a cool character color scheme wise. I love the blue hair. I think if she didn't have the blue hair, she'd be a lot more boring. Also the surgical mask, that's good. That's appealing to the surgical mask fetish that some people have, you know? And that's the thing, you can't deny. I guess to show off her other super, which is that, except it didn't work. Didn't work again. That's okay. It's basically one of those just goes back and forth things. Her grab is one of the best because it goes into a crumple state always, which then you can use to... It's an instant air combo, which I can't do because I'm terrible with her and keep using supers instead. But no, it's good. I think also she has this one, which is the Izuna drop, which is cool. Izuna drops are my favorite move in fighting games. That's basically the move where someone grabs, like a ninja usually, grabs someone, holds them up in something, and then, like, you know, either in a grapple or something, it's in the body bag there, jumps up, spinning in the air, and, like, spinning pile drives them in this held position. It's super cool. I really love that. But no, Valentine is an interesting character. She has some of the most fan art and some of the most fans ever. And they're different though from the Squiggly and Peacock fans, I will say. They're a lot more subtle about it. You know, there's this one artist, I forget her name, but she does a lot of stuff with the relationship between Valentine and Painwheel as like an adopted mom and an adopted daughter and a mom, which I actually really like. Oh, so that was a gimmick I never showed off with Cerebella, which is she has a running mode, and then the running mode can leads into a whole bunch of stuff. Of course, I missed with that. That's fine.
Ready for your shots?
Let's see if I can get this. Come on.
This might pinch.
Come on. Get over here. Oh wow, it got rid of my thing. And
This might pinch.
it works on a 3-level system too? Wow. Well, how come that wasn't working? And then it worked. That was so weird. There we go. Now she's orange, which I'm pretty sure slows down her button inputs, which is a cool system. Here's her level 3. This one is really cool.
Tell me where it hurts.
The only cinematic level 3 in the game, and then it always also, when you're done, gives you a single level of, I think, poison. Although I think if you hold different buttons, you can decide what level 1 injection you'd like to get. It's cool. Now, she's one of the few characters with a level 5 super. I say one of the few, but all the level 5s are basically hidden supers. No character's level 5 is used except under really certain circumstances. I don't know why this stage is the one that always lags the most. Hers is really cool though, and it was actually, I think, one of the first level, like the first level 5 that people really knew about. And basically what it is you can use her snapback, or her, no, it's you press the assist buttons, and what happens is she will actually, if there's a character who died on the ground, so like one of your partners, she'll heal them, and they'll come back with a third of their HP. She'll, like, full revival. It's kind of crazy for a fighting game to allow characters to be revived, you know? But it does take a full level 5. It can also be used for damage. It does hit below, because she uses those what are they called? The EADs? And no, so it has a full hitbox and stuff, but you're never using it for damage. You're using it always for, always to make sure you're, reviving someone. Because it's level 5 also, you're not going to get it unless you're in like a 6-on-6 character match. You don't get level 5s when playing just normally. Also, I'm losing a bit. It's not good. Come on.
Dodge this.
And I think you can hit off the ground, yeah, which is cool.
So you say.
There we go. But no, she's one of the most characters who I think people accuse of just being blatantly fan service the most. And I'd agree, but since she is literally a kunoichi, which is, I'm gonna sound weeby here, a Japanese ninja, they historically use their sexuality to distract their opponents. Which is crazy, you know, it's like, that's the thing that, you know, I think is really cool. She also has a little name card that I always forget when looking at fan art and stuff, because people never forget her, or never remember her name card. But as you can see, we're fighting double, because, spoilers, we're actually not with double. This whole plot is basically getting revenge for what happened to the rest of her troops. who were, again, all named after holidays. You don't get much on them. They're some of the most, you know, just background characters. I think at one point it was considered she'd get an attack where she would, no, I'm thinking of something else. Okay. No, it was for, as I was talking about last part, our fan game. We were planning on at one part fighting the ghosts of all the Last Hope, that's what they're called. Fighting the ghosts of all them. Because they all have weapons, backstory and stuff, but you never really see it in the game. It's one of those supplementary material things, which I know some people don't like. I'm a big fan of supplementary material stuff because then it's sort of like you search for it. But no, they all have interesting stuff. I know there's Christmas, Patty, Sister, they're all sisters too. That's the sort of thing. They're all named like, no, they're her sisters. They're not sisters. I'm confused. I'm sorry. Ignore that whole plot line. There are people who know a lot more about them than me. Because it's interesting, you get sections of the fan base for this game, I feel. You get, like, the main characters, Philia and Cerebella. You get the villains, you know, then you get people who are more into the cartoony characters. Don't get me started on the Beowulf community. Spoilers, I am the entire Beowulf community. All of them. Beowulf is my man. But, yeah. No hard feelings, you're a pawn. We're all pawns and dying, and I should probably pay attention to the story, but it's okay. Again, if you really want to, you can go listen to my voice story mode playthroughs that are up. I know at times the audio lags and stuff because I recorded them, processed them, and uploaded them all at the same time, which led to some undesirable side effects, but honestly, whatever. My excuse is that it gives people a reason to actually go out and get the game themselves, so they can view it in, like, the best way they want, you know? Again, I'm very, even though I'm putting these up on YouTube and stuff, and I know some people might say, what are you doing? It's bad. I believe that, really, you know, it's your responsibility to, if you really enjoy these videos, go out and get this game. Because, you know, it's support these developers and stuff. Also, any move that crosses up Marie will just confuse her. Straight up. It's the easiest way. And that doesn't work on her, of course. This will, though. Or not. There we go. Or not. She actually avoided it. Nice. No, go out and get it. Actually, one thing that's interesting is this game does have some pretty hilarious DRM, where if it's detected you're playing a pirated copy, it will ask a question like, something involving tuna? Something in, like, some really weird, like, how many tuna does it take to do something? It's something really weird. And then these people online started asking on the official forums, I got this pop-up, what does it mean? And then, of course, some people who worked at Lab Zero said, it means you should buy the game. And actually, I know this one guy got really mad, saying, like, geez, you know, it's like, also, why did Patty's not... Oh, I think I remember. I think they said they didn't have to change Patty's and then the dark girls, whose name I forget. Theirs because it's not the red cross on white. It's the red cross on white it's the problem. That's what it was. No, and then they're like, the one guy got really defensive saying like, oh my god, I bought 3 copies of the game because it got featured on like Kotaku and all these websites, you know, so... but now she's not just a ninja skull, now she's a Skullgirl. And actually, she has in-game, her Skullgirl palette, if you will. Like, it's a palette that's meant to represent what she'd look like as a Skullgirl, which is pretty cool. It's interesting, because a lot of people are like, I don't get this ending. What does that mean? And it's like, I don't know. There's all sorts of speculation, but none of it is canon, so it doesn't matter. The canon story will be coming later. Now, they said there's some parts of the story that are canon. Also, I love her ripping off the mask. It looks so cool. There are some parts of the story that are canon. Some events. Not all of them. Definitely not all, because they all contradict each other. But as we'll go on to some later ones, there are ones that are totally canon, things that happen, and others are not. So... It's an interesting way to tell the story. I know some people don't like it because, oh, it's not official, like, you know, you sort of have to think about it on your own. But a double time! Double story is weird. It doesn't make sense until kind of the ending, because no one really knows what Double is. I know a lot of people say, oh, Double's probably the goddess, right? Because, look, she has, like, that's the goddess up there. She probably has something to do with the goddess, right? But I don't think so. like, I'm not sure what Double is, and Double isn't explained. So that's just straight up Marie before she turned into the Skullgirl. So you can see her there as like a maid. Also, you know, with skin, because in what she looks like afterwards, almost all of her skin is gone. She's missing an entire hand. Her rib cage is open. And it's funny because you see some fan art and man, they do stuff to her rib cage like... I'm talking about bad fan art, by the way. But yeah, no, it's like, Double's story is weird. She's basically, spoilers, trying to assimilate everyone. And so it's like, it's strange. But no, Double is actually made up of not, like, a lot of people say, oh, she's just reusing attacks from characters. But it's not just reused attacks. She does have some unique ones, but also any unused concepts, which I think works good. You know, it's like, for instance, this attack here, which is literally Peach Bomber from Armika, which is great. But the gunshot, and these are all, and I guess her super, which is here, it's just them riding by in a cartoony vehicle. It's all unused stuff from the game. So they came up with these animations. They're like, oh, we can't implement them. What are we going to do? Let's just give them to a character who can shapeshift and stuff. So that's kind of cool. One thing they did add was, in a later version, they gave Squiggly's backdash, because Squiggly wasn't out at that time, and instead gave her old dash as a command dash, which I showed off and then immediately got used against me. Don't use the command dash, it's not worth it. Can I use her other super? Oh, no. Where's her other super I want to show off? That's not the one I wanted to use. She got another super later added. She's one of the ones that got like kind of updated the most. It's interesting, you know. She changed quite a bit. She can also jump and transform into stuff. I want to see if I can use it. There you go, yeah. You can use that for all sorts of combos. You know, jump and... Let's see here. Teapot. Okay, so let me just take a look here, because I haven't used her in a long time. How do you do her? Oh, and she has Sub-Zero's slide, which is hilarious. Beast of Gehenna is backwards 2 kicks. There we go. So she places this thing on the ground, which when walked over just turns into this giant monster that bites them and spits them out on the top of the screen. And you can use it for all sorts of combos and stuff. It's really good. So that was a fully, like, unused attack, and then, you know, they decided to just color it and put it in, and I'm very happy they did, because it's visually a really cool attack. And that's the thing, it's like getting these attacks to visually look cool, you know? Put in the effort, and the only other thing I can think of is the fact that, Peacock had a train super, I'm pretty sure. Or no, she came in originally riding on this giant train, and it was a cool looking train, but sadly, they couldn't implement it because it was too big. Just like Big Band, originally was a lot bigger, but he actually ended up being so big, he wouldn't run on PS3. So they did have to downsize him, and so they joked about him being Little Band, and then later on, I think as a joke, they actually added like a you know the bomb for Peacock. Sorry about that. Peacock's bomb there, George, they actually added a George-sized Big Band as a joke once, and they called him Little Band. And it was a good gag, you know. That's all it is. It's just a gag. Don't take it as anything else. I know some people digged. Some people were like, "Oh man, now it's gonna be fully playable and stuff." Let's see if we can get her level. We won't be able to get her level 5, but let's see if we can get her level 3, or we can get her level 2, which is this: cat heads. So basically, your kicks and your kick buttons become commands for these cat heads. I think another name for it was called Furiburos, named after Ouroboros, the Super Strider does in Marvel vs. Capcom, which is kind of similar, which is used to just extend combos and stuff. Your kicks become either make them move forwards, move up, or move forward up. So you get all sorts of ways to just like command them around. It's really good. It was originally a level 1 super until they realized, damn, it's probably a little too powerful. Just like, for a while, her medium Hornet Bomber, which is, this, if I can use that one, that was fully invincible as an assist, and people said it was too powerful, so they actually had to change it. But as you can see here, you could do crazy stuff with the cat heads, to the point where it turns on the... So that there, if you saw, that's the automatic infinite prevention system. So at that point, I filled up the gauge, the in-game gauge, not the one at the top. The one under the life bar is the undizzy, I think it's called. It's called the drama gauge. That's the official term. So basically, I use the same moves too many times, and so by pressing any button, she could break out of it, use a burst. The other way to get that is through. So if you see under the life bar there, occasionally a little green meter will appear. And I know this one's very confusing for some people, but basically, if you keep doing a combo that just goes on forever, you'll start filling it up, even if you're changing up your combo. Because there was complaints that combos were still too long in this game. So they changed it so that not only could you not input infinites, but after a while, all combos will have to end. You know, which I think is a fair system. I think, you know, some people are like, it's not fair. I think it is, you know? Yeah, you can combo after that, sort of, kind of. But no, so it's like they put that in as a system where, wow, that took all the hits on the head. I didn't know that was a thing. So with the undizzy system, you could basically it would just make sure that you'll never... I don't think the head can be killed. Like, you have to actually kill by hitting the body. It's... Okay, I'm trying to explain this, and it's super tough. Basically, it's another infinite prevention system. It's another system that stops you from being comboed. You press any button and you burst. That's all I can say. Now, this game does have a bit of a alternate system called the burst bait, where basically what you want to do is bait your opponent into getting their gauge to be filled, and by doing that, then you want to retreat, and then when they retreat, they'll use their burst, but because you won't be there, they'll miss, and then after that you can, you know, go after them and actually start doing crazy combos and stuff. So, as I was saying though, she does have a level 5 super, which is really ironic now that they're away from Konami, because at that time they were, and what it is she becomes a giant Moai head, which, if you don't know, that's a staple of Konami games. There's a giant Moai head in every Konami game. Not every, but a good number, including Metal Gear. So then, she becomes this giant Moai, and then after that, she will, you'll press buttons, and you send out waves of enemies. And it's, I think if you look at the command list for her, it's called, Megalith Array. So you use it, and you become this thing, and you shoot rings, or you fire minions, and it's, literally, you become a Gradius boss, which is really cool. I think it's a really great super, and apparently with it, you can do a combo that does, I think, full life of damage. It's really tough, though, and I think it took people till, like, a very much a later, like, recently almost, to actually get it to work, you know? So it's crazy that it took so long to actually get it to exist, but they're like, yeah, no, you can use this combo that does most health, and it took, I think, because they talked about that near release, like, around the time they announced Double, and it took them until at least, I think, around second Encore's release for someone to actually do it. So, again, the story is basically going that Double is going around and not just fighting these people, but outright absorbing them into her body. And as you'll see in the ending, it gets really weird, and I am not a fan. But Double has like an agenda above the above Marie and the Skullgirl, because she is, I think, an agent for the Trinity. We haven't really got into the Trinity, but we'll see the Trinity in not too long, because the Trinity are very important characters who you might see in the background. For example, they just showed there, but in backgrounds of stages, they're the gods of the Skullgirls universe. They were thought, you know, well, not thought, but they were planned in the DLC ballot. There was plans to make one of them playable, but they decided to not eventually, you know. Actually, it's interesting. Eliza, a character we'll get to in not too long, was actually a character who was going to be a major boss in Skullgirls 2. She's not part of this game's storyline right now, really. She's you know, because the main story of this game is the existence of the Skullgirl and, you know, like how we're gonna fight the Skullgirl and the Skullheart and stuff. But then there's the mystery of the parasites, who we'll see when we get to Eliza's story. They have history with each other, they've been around for centuries and have had multiple hosts and stuff. So it's like we've had all sorts of stuff with them that, you know, like we don't know about. Let's see if we can do this. Okay, so that did a good bit of damage. Let's see if we can finish this. There we go. Yeah, that was the grossest ending ever, but it works. So like that's interesting that they voted in Eliza, and I know that got a lot of people mad because they're like, okay, so we're not getting any of the characters that we need to finish the canon story. We're getting a character who's more important in Skullgirls 2. Like, come on, but it was a vote. And you know what? I think it's fine. I think, because Skullgirls 2 will happen one day. I'm sure of it. Because this game is actually played quite a bit and is quite popular. More so than a lot of indie games. But now that with Indivisible happening, they have a company that they can partner with again. And it can happen. Also, this is really gross. And when I first saw this, I'm like, Jesus. This is, oh my god. It's really gross. Like, that's the real double, kind of, but it's not really. Because you'll see, after the credits, or not, it's actually right now. So, Skullgirls is, all of these things were the two goddesses, Aeon and Venus, playing a Dreamcast game. And if you don't believe me, look at that console up there. That is a Dreamcast. With a fight stick, there's an N64 cartridge to the left. There's a Beowulf and Taliesin Yaoi doujinshi to the right above Venus's butt, which is actually, that was the first appearance of Beowulf. We didn't see him before. He wasn't in the vanilla game except for there. There's a book also above that called Too Many Spoons, which is a reference to The Room. And an Valentine Opie mouse pad down at the bottom. You'll see when the text box goes away, and the Toho face for Misfortune. So the big plot twist is that these are branching threads of fate. So none of them are canon. They're different possibilities of the future. What else do we got here? We got Master Chief's head in the bottom. We got an alien head. We got a Guy Fawkes mask. I'm just taking a look here. I know there's a bunch of references and stuff, which is just hilarious. You got Misfortune body parts. You got, because all this is like, this is taking place in another dimension now, you know. But the living woman is now playing Far Cry. Thank you for that. And no, so Aeon is just playing this game, and that game, it's a metaphor for the fact that none of them are canon. Don't take it anything seriously, because if you see, the TV itself has a vein on it. And don't worry, sister, you'll have your fun later. And here is the mother. Who is this mother, right? Well, she has the same crown that, what's her face? Parasol's mother wore when she was a Skullgirl. So a lot of people think that after being, like, there's things of being like, the mother is the original goddess and these two are her subordinates, but then the original goddess was brought to Earth reincarnated to be Parasol's mother, who then became the Skullgirl, which is why the Skullheart's part of the plan and stuff. So it's really interesting. There's some story there. Skull Young Woman figure kit. That's good. There's an Annie poster. There's some floppy disks. You kid knows about your floppy disks. Hard Times. That is actually a character on there. D. Violet. She's the alter ego to the teacher character. And she's, again, like, there's backstories to all these characters that you don't hear about except in the, like, the extended materials, which is pretty cool. But no, so that is the end of the vanilla Skullgirls stories, and I think if we skip, there's nothing. But don't worry, there is a bit more extended story with the DLC characters. By a bit, I mean quite a bit. Some of this, like, these stories were good. They were fine. They took, you know, they took a good chunk. The other stories, the DLC character stories, you can tell they got their money because they get a lot longer They get a lot more in-depth. They get a lot cooler. So, thank you all, well, with the exception of a couple, but we'll see. Thank you all for watching, and next time we're going on to the DLC characters. See you then. Ciao.